Welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time for the November, we do this every other month, update to the best champions to Awaken. Then the best 7 stars to rank, the best 6 stars to rank, those will be linked in the description as we get you prepared for Cyber Weekend. Now, what's unique about this as far as the Awakening and the 6 stones is concerned is that we now know, or we've been told, we're going to get the Awakening gem. Now, I don't know if it's going to be for units, I don't know if it's going to be for money, I don't know, right? We aren't aware of that. But whether you're awakening 6 stars, you're awakening 7 stars, if it is only behind dollars and you're just only spending units, it is eventually coming. This is going to be really important. And the one thing I'll say, right, there's a couple things I will say before we fully jump into all of the classes is, I think if you're ranking up 6 stars, if you're here because you want to watch 6 stars, you want to know the best ones, right? I have linked in the description the monthly tier list. That is the best tier list. Like, this is Kabam Crashed, okay?
Yeah, I use the sheet. Your tier list is the one that I use internally, and then I give to other designers when they ask me for a tier list.
It's phenomenal. It's got all the MCoC Illuminati's opinions and experience and knowledge and sharing. And then, of course, the spreadsheet wizards, their knowledge, their experience too, but they then put it in this amazing spreadsheet. Go there, open it, check it out. See who we have the most highly ranked. We've got the emoji for their ranking is dependent on them being awakened, and then also the ones that are great for high sig. So utilize that. A lot of this framing is going to be about 7 stars because I want to be super strict on this. This is an incredibly rare thing. It's the first time we're going to get like a class 7-star awakening gem. I might not talk about every champion we have highly rated. Okay, that's really important. I see people misunderstand that every single time I do a video like this. But I'm going to talk about ones that stand out to me, that are very interesting to me, and somewhere where I want to really use them as an example for what I'm talking about is why I think they are such a great option. We're going to start off in the science class here. I've got my list, I've got my notes, and the first one, and this is the sort of thing I think you should always be looking for, especially if these gems are incredibly important to you. You want the champion to be incredibly relevant in the game. You want them to be relevant in the modes you're playing. You want them to be really good in those modes. If you can, ideally, you want them to have an ability that is just not in the rest of their kit. It's not accentuating the rest of their kit. It's like, this just opens up what they can do. And honestly, 6 stones still are just not everywhere. I don't have any SIG 200 champions or anything like that. At least at 7-star, if I can get a god a bang for my buck, Luke Cage fits it perfectly. He's a great champion. He's great in all the modes I enjoy. And just from getting him awakened, this is why I even did a separate video on him awakened. It's right there. The bulletproof skin grants Luke an indestructible for 2 seconds. I know this doesn't sound like a much, but think about like Titania or going indestructible. I've shown you the video on Luke. Him being awakened, it just takes him up another notch. So for me, if I'm not looking to invest my 6 stones, right? Who knows what they've got coming? Who knows how much we're going to get? If you all of a sudden have 200, then maybe you're looking for a champion that really wants SIG 200. But for me, he is a phenomenal awakened champion. It opens up so much, right? Let's continue on. Now, one of my own personal ones, if it's a crystal and I get science, it will be going to this man right here. And the difference is where is it? When the opponent is immune to personal bleed. And I know it starts off at only a 30% chance, but he gets that vicious, I believe it's the vicious passive, really changes that up. A lot of great content creators have done great videos on Morbius. I've been talking about wanting my Morbius awakened for an incredibly long time. I do not think I would throw a bunch of SIGs into him. I'd want to test it and all that, but I've been wanting him awakened. I just haven't been able to get him awakened. And like I said, if it's a crystal, science will be one of my most wanted classes, and it will go directly into Morbius. And I'm sure there's gonna be ranked through materials for Cyber Weekend. I would take him up. Another one we're gonna talk about, and I'll try to speed this up a little bit because we've been on science for a bit, is Captain America Infinity War. For me personally, I think he's one though where you want to SIG him up. You want to get him as close as you can to SIG 200. You know, you can look up his signature ability. You can see it. He's good. He's actually great. He's great in a variety of modes. And then his signature ability really has a lot of bang for your buck. Like I said, I would only use a gem on him if I was intending to take him to a very high SIG. The next one is Overseer. Now, Overseer hasn't, in my opinion, become less good in the game. It's that the science class around him has just gotten so insanely strong. But he has a really nice awakened ability, right? There was a while where people thought you had to have it and all these things. But for me, I was like, he's even good at a lower sig. I'm lucky I've got mine at level 100 already. But it's this last sentence. Okay. It's this last part of the first sentence in the first bullet point. It's the one where it says, and the Overseer gains 1 gamma power. That is a really big deal. Those are often the fights you're taking him into. And it doesn't like do something his kit's already not doing. What it does is it supercharges his kit. I really love his awakened ability. I think you probably want to, if you're using an awakening gem on him, have it be a commitment that you're going to sig him up, mainly because the science class around him is just so strong. He is a great, great champion. Immunities, the whole thing, right? Moving along, I've been showing you Spider-Punk, how great he is. He is phenomenal. He is a great awakening gem candidate, in my opinion. Also, he doesn't need that SIG 200 anymore. I did the video on him showing you what he's like at SIG 60, 680. Really, really powerful. You can see there, you're already at that 73% chance. So you're doing pretty well. And that's only at SIG 80. Do you really want to take him all the way to SIG 200? That's going to be up to you, how much you're enjoying him, how powerful he is for you. I do think again, I've talked about it. I think he's a little bit of a luxury rank. Now, Allison Edits feels like maybe he's the best science champion in the game. I think that's a lot of it due to her high skill level and the way she's enjoying the game. But he is worthy. He's in that conversation for one of the best science champions, depending on which modes and things like that you enjoy, in my opinion. Another one we'll talk about is if you're really interested in high battlegrounds, right? Now, I like her anyways, but I think outside of really needing it for the defensive capabilities of high battlegrounds, I think you're fine even without awakening. I don't know if I'd use my gem on her, but if you really want that immunity to neutralize, I don't know how much that's coming anymore. Rinser's not as big of a deal, but Kabam could throw anything at us, so you never know. That's a nice thing. I don't think I'd use an awakening gem on her unless I was thinking I'm definitely taking her super high sig, and it's because I really want to compete in Mysterium and Celestial sort of battlegrounds. As far as value of a champion is concerned, though, she is very, very worthwhile. Another one we'll talk about is Count Nefaria. He's an interesting one. I want to do more of a review on him in my top 10s for December. We'll talk about him a little bit more and why I don't have him. I don't quite as highly regard him as some other folks do. But his signature ability is really nice. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And if you're interested in taking him to a higher sig, if these are the sorts of fights you want to be taking with him, which I do think is reasonable, he's that good, where if you like him, this is really nice. I think you're wanting to put 6 zones into him. I don't think I would just put a gem into him and call it a day like I would like Luke Cage, as far as like bang for your buck. And then the last one, I love Spot. I really loved playing Spot. I feel like the game, though, it hasn't moved on from him. It's just, again, the science class all the way around. But if you're interested in taking him to a high sig, if you love like that huge, massive burst of damage, I think he's a phenomenal option. He's not a champion that I'm in a huge hurry to rank 3, even though I just loved playing him because he's just not fitting the things that I want to do. But he's very, very worthwhile. And again, I may not have mentioned your favorite champion or champions who are worthy, but again, they're in the tier list. So make sure you check that out. All right, let's go ahead and move on to skill. For me, this one's quite a bit more simple. We've talked about this in like the best to rank. We talk about this sometimes in the general tier list. It's kind of the skill champions that are available to us as 7 stars. They're very, very good. Okay. The one I think you have to start off with, again, for me, this is like one of the best ones because it opens up a whole avenue of fights that they could take. I think you do want to get him to a high sig, though. You can see at sig level 130, he's already at that. This is Crossbones. I know some people listen without watching. This is Crossbones. At sig 130, he's already at that 76% chance. So, that's pretty good, right? I'm comfortable with that roll of the dice, helping you take photons, things like that. I've shown you taking hazard shift and things like that because eventually you turn off the ability accuracy as well. So it's kind of it's not a mixed bag. It's a bunch of things kind of coming together. He is a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic champion. I think he's very worthwhile. I've put some 6 zones into mine. The other skill champion that just really stands out to me right away is Atuma. Atuma can be used offensively, right? Even Old Man Easy was on the comments the other day saying that he really enjoys using him. If you're interested in battlegrounds at all, though, getting this fight to start with that concussion is a big deal as far as Atuma's defensive kit, making that so your opponent really does want to counter. He's not taking that damage back. I think he's a very worthy use of 6 zones. I have started putting my 6 zones into him. That might be on pause And we'll kind of explain why when we get to the mutant section. And we'll talk about that, of course, as we do streams and more videos over the course of the next 2 months. That being said, I do think Atuma is a good use of an Awakening gem. And even just getting at that relatively low sig, I think you're just fine because it opens up a lot. And then you can decide if you want to later, take him to the super high sig. I don't think this is like Captain America Infinity War where you have to take him to that sig 200. Otherwise, it's just not making a lot of sense. Especially, again, if you're looking for battlegrounds, you want to place him on defense. And then the other two, and these are kind of interesting ones for me. I know a lot of people don't like Falcon, but as you know, I'm a fan. I like winning. I don't find winning boring. So yeah, maybe the 45 seconds that I'm in the fight with Falcon, it's not like, the greatest display of skill, but I like winning, and Falcon wins a lot. You can see just getting that a single awakened, right? It's single sig level 1. That lock on lasts for 2 seconds longer. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about the way this game's played, 2 seconds is a really long time, especially for an ability like that is so insanely powerful. So I would consider it if you really like Falcon. And then the other one is Patriot. I will admit, Patriot's in this interesting space for me where like I could actually see him getting a buff. I could see him not. We're not seeing a ton of Patriot. I think it's because he's just kind of coming from a 7-star. He's one of these champions that like I think was so not overly obviously powerful that a lot of people didn't rank up their 6 stars and use them. The 7-star, people have just really started pulling them. The Awakened ability does look really nice. So if you're a Patriot fan or you believe in that, I don't think you're crazy for thinking about Patriot. So I did at least want to call that out. I left the screen I wanted to be on. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to Mutant. I said we would talk briefly about why I now have a little hesitation with Atuma. And some of it is due to Negasonic Teenage Warrior, who is a champion I am calling out. I think she's really, really good. Now, Jaeger's pointed out to me that maybe the Awakened ability isn't quite as necessary in general as I thought it was. It's that pause is one of the reasons why I thought it was. Really, it's the whole Awakened ability. I talked about this at length in my new champion video on her. But he's saying, look, for her to be a great bullseye counter, you really do want this. You really do want this. It's really helpful. I thought you really wanted it elsewhere, but he seems to, and he's a really high skill player. Remember, he's the one who really tuned us in first to how great Luke was. So your mileage may vary, but if you really enjoy NTW and you want to be able to beat up bullseyes in Battlegrounds, it sounds like you at least want her Awakened. I had her on this list before I even showed it to the Illuminati, and he just kind of, in my opinion, made sure that was a really good call. Now, she also, might not be so bad for Atuma's. Here's the other thing. This gal, I know she's on the thumbnail. Misty K has already made it. She does phenomenal work. I appreciate that. This gal is bonkers, y'all. Like, I want her. I'm so happy she's coming in a battle pass. Yeah. And I right now think that my most wanted Awakening class is actually going to be Mutant. Even though I want to Awaken Morbius so bad, my Science class is so stacked, my deck is stacked, I've been doing fine. I want Morbius. I'll be very excited when I pull Morbius, but I want Dazzler and I want her Awakened. Okay. I'll just kind of read this because I know that we don't even have videos out on her and things like that. Okay. During her hits, Dazzler takes no physical damage. So just at Sig 1, you're already taking that no physical damage, right? So that's Korg, that's Atuma, all right? This isn't exactly the same as Namor because Namor's all damage. This is just isolated to physical, but a lot of those Science defenders are going to be placing this physical damage and making her great for that. Now, I've got the player on Awakened and she's pretty good. So it's not just those options that you're concerned about right now, okay? Then as the Sig goes up, instead reflect 20 to 200% of that back at the opponent. Really awesome. Plus, performing a dazzling dash. I know we don't know her kit that well, but that's something you're doing in the fights. Is going to grant that pursuit passive. Now, I see that it's only for 2 seconds and not the longest time in the world. So you're going to have to be pretty smart about it. I was hoping that clicking on pursuit would show up, but this is going to shut down evades for you. I want Dazzler. I want a rank 3 Dazzler. I want her Awakened, and I want to get that Sig to a reasonable level so I can really utilize her. I think she's that good. And I do think she's a great example of the champion's good in the game. They're good and relevant in the modes that I want them to be or that I enjoy. And also this is opening up a new ability and making their kit that I'm going to be able to take other fights that I otherwise couldn't, or the fights I'm taking get significantly better because of the Awakened ability. She literally, it's like Luke Cage where this just fits the bill for exactly what I'm looking for in an awakened ability if I'm using a incredibly precious awakening gem and 6 stones on it. Like, perfection. The other one that we'll talk about, there's a couple more here in the Mutant class. If you love Professor X like I do, maybe you've gotten really great with him where you don't need it. I still think that this is a really nice awakened ability. Even just at Sig 1, while below 75%, channeling charges gain 1 charge per second. This is really helping you get ramped up for those tough fights where you really want to bring him. That's a big deal for me. I really like that. If you love Professor X, you're taking him to rank 3 or rank 4 soon, if that's something that's available, I think you might consider it. He's not in any crystals or anything like that. So, I mean, maybe they'll put him back in. I don't know. We just don't know. So he's got a little bit of that rarity premium to him as well. Omega Red, you want to be taking him to Sig 200, though. If you're doing that, make sure you love your Omega Red. Domino for Battlegrounds defense. Make sure you're taking her to a super high Sig 2 as well for that crit fail damage. She's a good defender without it, but punishing your defender or your opponent even more in Battlegrounds with the crit fail damage is great. Sinister, I've done the full video on the Awakened ability. I know some folks, and I understand, sometimes you just want to be told, do I need to do this or do I not? You can't answer that question, I don't think, and fully answer it, because you need to know what modes you're playing. You want to know how lucky you're feeling. Do you want to use them offensively? I think it's a very good SIG. You can see I mean what I'm saying. I've literally put my 6 stones where my mouth is. I've got him all the way at Sig 136. So clearly, I think the SIG is a good idea if you enjoy Battlegrounds. And then the last one we'll talk about briefly is Onslaught. Where is my Onslaught? Come here, boy. Why are you hiding? I have put some 6 stones into him. Not only is this I think he's the highest prestige champion in the game. Pretty positive on that. And it's by a good margin, if I remember correctly. But this actually does help his damage as well. I think that's with the Daunted, right? Onslaught can block and block with special attacks, which is great. I would not necessarily use an Awakening gem on him solely for that, but that is really helpful. But then this last part, the Daunted potency is increased by 22.33%. It's kind of a big deal. I really enjoyed this about him. And it makes him a little bit better of a defender with the block penetration stuff, with his AI being a little bit wonky. So Mutant really has a lot of great options. I think you're wanting Mutant. I think you're wanting Science. At least I know I am. And then let's go ahead and talk about the class that I actually want probably the least, except for one potential option. Now I'm going to explain this. And I'll just say Hyperion's a good option, right? Just Sig 1 for him is great. Null is obviously a great option, especially when you're taking him to Sig 200. You really want to take him to that high Sig, though. There's some debate on whether Bill really wants it or not. Some Illuminati's thought yes, some Illuminati's thought nah, not so much. I don't know if Bill's really making a huge dent in any modes or anything like that. So if you really love Bill and you want to wake him, go for it. Angela, Venom, Gladiator, all could use it, really, right? Like, really, really helpful to them. They're all really good without it. Gladiator, I think you really want him with the higher Sig so he can continue to prevent, I think it's the armor ups for you. Adam Warlock, I've been fine without mine. I think he becomes a better defender with it. Superior Iron Man, I wouldn't use an Awakening gem on him. I love him. I think he's of the value of a champion that you would start to initially think about, but he's great without it. It's this guy. This guy was the big one. Just a couple of months ago, I would have told you that Cosmic was the one I most wanted, and I was going to take him straight to Sig 200, well, as fast as I could. I don't have Sig 200 Sig zones running around. One of the things that's happened, though, is I've become so used to fighting it with America Chavez, and Kabam, of course, and we all knew they would do this, has been putting out more and more counters to him. And for me, it's the signature ability that makes him a very difficult defender in Battlegrounds. And sometimes I'll see like a rank 3 at Sig 20, and I'm like, I'd rather fight that than a Sig 200 6-star, even though it's just a rank 5 versus the rank 3 7-star, because it's that duration on the immortality that's a really big deal. However, there were some things about Serpent's Kit that I had kind of just forgotten, or really more precisely, there were things that are in Serpent's Awakened ability that I actually thought were in his main kit, and I'm comfortable admitting that. I'd rather get out the right information to you all and the right advice. And here was kind of some of the things. Is the SIG actually scales relatively well, meaning it's not one of those ones where it's basically SIG 200 to see like the full benefit. It kind of scales nicely. The curves work out well. The bullet point 2 is a big one. The Serpent gains immunity to stun effects during the opponent's special attack. So even if you're using him for Battlegrounds defense, this is Xing out champions like Shocker and Hulk that was immediately brought up by Jaeger. Now, I never use those champions to fight Serpents because I almost never fight an Awakened Serpent. Plus, I go nowhere without my rank 3 America Chavez. So that's not something that I'd ever really considered, which is probably a big reason why I forgot that was in his Awakened ability, not in his kit itself. And then, there is the death immunity. He consumes all the dread and the buff. You can see it goes from 5 seconds to 8. 5 isn't nothing. 5 isn't nothing. So again, this is probably just a product of me having America Chavez, right? Or Werewolf by Night and those sorts of things. And then for each Cold Force grants up to 135. That's not a ton attack rating. But this is a champion that I think does make sense to get that initial awakening. The stun immunity does mark off just champions who otherwise opponents might be using for him. And then also he scales nicely, meaning he's not worthless or pointless when you until you get him to Sig 200. So as you're putting 20 in or 3 in or 5 in or whatever it is you're able to get those 6 stones in, you're gonna see a benefit. And we are getting those from the daily deals now. So he makes sense to me. I still don't want Cosmic because I want those other classes more. But if I get Cosmic, you're gonna see me put it into Serpent and then slowly but surely just put my Cosmic Stones into him. He is very worthy, especially because I do enjoy Battlegrounds so much. Now we're moving on to tech, and along with Mutant and Science, this is the class that I want the most, right? I probably want Mutant or Tech the most just because, again, my Science roster is so strong, but I really do believe that makes a big difference for Morbius, and I'd be very excited to show it to you. Now, in Tech, if you're going, this is pure BG's move. This is a great option. He's been a phenomenal defender. I took him up to rank 3 for this meta is what helped me choose between him and the other Tony Starks that I have on my roster. You can kind of see getting that max power going is a really big deal. I am not going to be putting stones in. 80 has been phenomenal. It's been enough for my purposes. I'm very content in Mysterium. He's been fantastic. Okay, now the next one I have listed is actually Tony Stark. OG Iron Man. This is a really, really good one. Let me find the exact place. It's this right here. Increase the potency of the armor ups. Like all the rest of this is good. Don't get me wrong. But it's increasing the potency of those arm ups that is really big deal when he goes into his arc reactor mode. And here's the bullet point right here. It's the third one under arc reactor. I like to explain this because it's just so easy to miss this. I know a lot of people miss this. You're going to gain an additional attack for each armor up above 12. Great, cool, right? You're like, what does this have to do with anything? Any effect that increases the potency of arm ups also increases the potencies of these attack rating bonuses by the same amount. Again, go back up to here, increase the potency of the arm ups. You can see how these work together. The designer did a really cool job. That doesn't feel hidden, just feels like a nice discovery and a way for that SIG to really make sense. I've done the video on Shocker. This is for me, it's a whole new ability. It really allows him to just so much more quickly and efficiently get through a Battlegrounds fight. And that's where you're often using him. I mean, you can do the longer stuff with the SP3 and all that, but he really, to me, feels tailored toward Battlegrounds, to War, maybe even some questing and things like that, because he does hit hard enough. I have mine at SIG 88. I don't intend to put more stones in him as of right now. I love him. Shocker is a phenomenal, phenomenal option, even outside of Battlegrounds, but I really do think that's where he is meant to be. Guardian is fantastic, especially if you're going to put the 6 stones into him. I would not awaken Guardian unless I was committed to taking him to honestly like Sig 200, guys. As you can see though, you can see the massive benefits. That's just a pure energy resistance. This is only Sig 60, so you can see how big of a deal that will be on the amount of fights you can take, right? And domino counters and things, just really, really fantastic. Continuing to move on this list, even William, like this is a celestial, high celestial level player. Adamantium's a massive fan. I'm getting better. I'm still using my 6-star because he's rank 5 ascended Sig 200. You can see that crit rating, really, really nice. You want to work in that falter before you throw your special too. So this is a big deal. I don't think I would use my awakening on him because I have another option that I like even more that's just more intuitive to me. But he's very worthy, especially if you're interested in putting those Sig stones into him, using him offensively in game in general, but again, in Battlegrounds, because he is so incredibly versatile in Battlegrounds. Howard the Duck, if you really love Battlegrounds, you want him awakened though. This is one of the reasons why you hear people so often talking about want to get awakened, and it's this part right here. The base ability accuracy, 150% instead of the normal 15. not coincidentally, Domino, that just helps you get around that sort of thing. So that's why that is a big deal. Spider-Man Stark Enhanced, I do not have the 7-star, but that is great, right? You, especially if you're going to put some 600s and get that SIG going a little bit. Ultron, we talked about this. This just opens up whole new fights. I would not do this though unless I was going to SIG him up very high. Like if you wanted to take those sorts of fights with him, then I think he's a great candidate for it. If you're planning to just leave him at SIG 1, I would not use it on Ultron. And then Arcade. We just don't know his buff yet. He's a relatively good defender. He's a relatively good attacker. So if you like to have tech and you have an Arcade, I would just wait and see that buff. I would wait and see that buff if you don't already have another tech champion that you really want to use it on, that you feel good committing on. And then I'll show you the one that I most badly want. I was obviously very disappointed when I was not able to pull him, dupe him right in the event. I don't remember what the event was anymore. And the hard part is you never know when this event may come back. You might pull him, you might not. You just don't know, but he is limited. If that event or if that crystal, or if he doesn't get put in a new crystal, he's not in the Titan, he's not in the basic. But this last minute upgrade to Punisher's Arsenal allows him to begin each fight with an additional 25% charge in his nano tech battery. It's only 25%. Just like I said, though, with the 2 seconds earlier, in this game, that is a lot. This allows him to get into that significantly easier. This is one of those reasons why people are using their Pun 29s to take out your bullseyes and things like that. It's fantastic champion. If I got tech, this, as of right now, as of recording, would definitely be my option. And then, of course, I'm sure I'm going to get rank 3 materials. He would go straight to rank 3 for me, because I just like him that much. Like, yes, I would probably rank 3 him even before I rank 3 another Tony Stark, even though I love the Tony Starks, which is because Pun 29 is so good in Battlegrounds. I really do enjoy him there, and he just simplifies things. Almost forgot to talk about Mystic, but we will. Now, if you've been watching the series or you're just watching my channel, you know that for me, this is my favorite class. I often talk about why I think they're so difficult to make, because they deal with power in literally every single fight, or for the most part, it's like their archetype. And a fight power is part of every single fight, whether it's the absence of power, the gaining of power, how you gain power. It's just a really, really big deal. And in fact, I might even put this at the beginning of the video, because I know people skip around, and it's really important you understand this. Awakening gems, if they're rare for you, are a really big deal. You don't want to willy-nilly use them. If you're coming up on 6 stars and you don't have a lot of them, don't willy-nilly use them. Make sure you really love that champion. They're going to help your account. For me, that's going to be 7 stars. And although I tell you often, and I've been saying this for a long time, that America Chavez is the most game-relevant MVP in the Mystic class. 7 stars. I would probably not use the Awakening gem on her unless I just loved using her and I was willing to maybe take her up. Now, I got lucky. I awakened mine. You can see I've pulled her, it looks like 7 times now, which is great. I'm really happy about that. But I wouldn't necessarily go out and use her, because is she great? Yes, she's great. Is she relevant in the game modes that you enjoy? Almost definitely. If you enjoy the game, she's relevant in all of them. But are you getting much bang for your buck? Is it opening up new fights? No. Is it going to make those fights that much better? Yeah, maybe. But again, you only have so many Awakening gems. And if this is 7 stars, you've got other options that might need it more. Now, she is, in my opinion, the best in the Mystic class. And like I said, if you pull Mystic, then she makes a lot of sense. But I really want to use this as an example of, for me, this is framed differently than just who's the best champion. Who's the best champion and who's most relevant in the modes you enjoy is part of the equation, in my opinion, for being happy with how you use your Awakening gems and 6 stones. But it's not the only one. It's not the only determining factor. She is great without it. Now, if you want to use it, go for it. I think it makes sense, but just really want to highlight that. I think the other possible uses here are Kushala, right? That is kind of opening up some fights. One of the things that's really nice is it does simplify playing her. I had her unawakened for so long that I got really used to playing her without that pause of the blessings, that first bullet point. That being said, I knew people that did have her awakened early, Yoshi, and they talked about how really nice it was. And there often were war fights where it did come up, and I did see how nice that was. And then, of course, getting the passives is great, right? What else do we have? Oh, the hood. the hood down here. If you like the Nullify and Juggernaut, which I know I really do, I want him awakened for that. He's obviously a good option, incredibly relevant in battle runes, right? So that's obvious, good in questing as well. The hood, especially if you're willing to rank him up a little bit, sig-wise, the hood becomes immune to all stun effects, which I do think is cool. It allows you to play a little more aggressively too. Like we always think of the, can't think of the node that stuns you every 20 seconds if you're not throwing a special, which is really nice. But here's the other part, is that while invisible, you now have a 25 all the way up to 45%. That's pretty good when you think about like a 5-hit combo. Chance to steal 10% of the opponent's current power, gaining twice that amount. So not only is that stealing power from your opponent, but you're able to cycle through your specials more quickly, meaning he's getting significantly better at the fights that you were hoping he'd be able to take. So I really do like that about him, and I do think he's good enough. I think he's a good enough champion. He has enough versatility to be in consideration for these sorts of things. And then the last one I'll talk about, she's so new. It's really hard to advise people on this sort of thing because she's just so new. A lot of this is still kind of like educated guesses. I wanted to say a motivated wish, but educated guesses on how good she's going to be. But it does feel very clear that she is very powerful. I enjoyed testing her. And I think if you're willing and interested to take her up to a very high sig, then she is worthy of it. She's very, very new. So she is eventually going to go in the Titan Crystal, increasing your chances of pulling her and awakening her in the Titan. But if for some reason you already have a 7-star Spiral and you pull a Mystic Gem, I do think she's good enough and worthy. And there's other champions in here. Like I said, check the spreadsheet because that's the one that like is going to let you just know. I wanted to give my opinion on some champions that you might want to consider and help you understand how I frame this and how I look at it so that you end up not only not disappointed, but extremely excited and happy about who you use your Awakening Gem on for a very long time. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what I thought, what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.